Well, hello. Where do we last leave off? I'm Jeff Martin alongside the trendsetter Brian Berger. We are the High Spot Podcast, HSP, on the Give Us a Shot Network. Like and subscribe right now. Download on all social media platforms and also listen to us on all podcast platforms. We are the Jersey Wrecking Crew. I'm Jeff Martin alongside my tag team partner, the trendsetter Brian Berger. Trendsetter, so much to discuss, man. I mean, just when you think you have a few days off, there is no days off in the world of pro wrestling. You ready to get started?
Definitely ready to get started, man. There is no off season. There never has been. There never will be. That's why we love doing this, because there's always something interesting to talk about. It is a revolving door thing. News just comes in and out every single time. So let's get started, man.
All right, so let's discuss Drew McIntyre finally re-signing with WWE. He is now in full effect now with the WWE in the long fold, signs a multi-year deal. And what a classy way for The Rock to do it. Gives the man a sword while having dinner with the folks. Of course, you want to do it personally, but of course, conflicting schedules. And he gets it at dinner with the family. Trendsetter, what class by The Rock? Showing you this, that if Triple H and The Rock want you, they're basically going to get you. And what a great signing for WWE. And talk about Drew McIntyre, who truly effing deserved this contract.
You can go in so many different directions there. Class act by the final boss. Drew McIntyre, I would love to say well deserved, but he earned an extension. He earned a contract to re-sign for an extension with WWE. What more can be said about Drew McIntyre? I don't think there's anything that I could say or you could say, Jeff, that will explain the significance he's had since he had the opportunity to kind of, for him it was sink or swim basically, because he's had opportunities before, didn't work themselves out. You had a scenario where the WrestleMania card was already set. CM Punk was going to be pitted in there with Seth Rollins. An unfortunate injury happens to CM Punk, as we talked about before, next man up. And this was Drew McIntyre's last opportunity, I feel, to prove that he can do this, to prove he is what everyone thought he was, and all the potential that I saw that Drew McIntyre had, but unfortunately never presented itself on WWE programming. He showcased that, took it to the limit, amazing on social media. He has this wit about him that I'm sure a lot of people maybe backstage knew, but nobody in terms of the WWE audience knew. We're finally seeing that, and this is just, he's reaping the rewards right now. Class act, that sword with the family. Must have been a great moment, and obviously Drew saying when he did receive the sword that The Rock was a man of his word, which he was. So you're right. If they want you, they'll go all out to keep you. And if you're a top talent in WWE, I feel like under this new regime, if you've proven that you can do the work and that you can draw money and have that connection to the audience, there's really no question that W is going to want to keep you there, and you're high priority commodity. I mean, where else is there to go?
Definitely, there were people holding out for maybe Drew McIntyre possibly wanting to go to an AEW, perhaps with All In being at Wembley Stadium. There was that little pipe dream that if things didn't go his way in WWE, he would find himself in AEW. But if you think about it, though, he was always a WWE guy. That's where he wanted to be. And I think that if you ask him, and at his honest point where he didn't have a contract or it wasn't leaning towards his way, this is where he wanted to go. I mean, let's share that story. We were there in Orlando for WrestleMania heading to NXT, and all of a sudden, Drew Galloway at the time, Drew McIntyre, was heading out of a I believe busted open party, and he was asking where there was parking and actually literally walking with us. And we didn't know that he was going to appear on NXT that same night at that show, but this is a guy that busted his butt, left the company that he loved, wanted to come back, was finally back. And you got to admit, it had to be probably, if you're creative, you have to be beating your head on the wall, wondering how are we going to get this guy over, because he has it. It was just tapping to what you said, tapping to something that probably everyone knew he had, but they just didn't draw into it at the time. And also probably too with leadership before, where Vince was just like, oh, let's put him with that sword, let's put him with the kilt, let's do the Scottish psychopath. But he was so much more. And the last 6 months, 7 months, he's just been on fire and has been worth his weight in gold. And we were at the MSG show. We've just seen his work the last few times. He got rewarded with the Mania main event. And now I'm excited for the future, because now I know he's in the fold, and that CM Punk match is going to happen knock on wood. And he just got to get over his injuries too. So he's going to have some time off now that he signed this big deal. I'm sure CM Punk will use this as ammo when they meet face to face one more time. But it's got to be good for the WWE to have one of their mainstays back. We're going to get CM Punk and Drew. And now he gets to heal up, though. So hopefully he feels better. But Trendsetter, talk about the injury bug on Raw, because right now there's a lot. It's the walking wounded. So we'll see what this draft will do as we head into Monday, and see if they can replenish it, or see if they're gonna push stars here and make opportunity for a lot of other wrestlers. You made a great point. You've always made the great point that there's injuries cause opportunities. So that roster is pretty depleted now. Rhea Ripley is out. Dom Mysterio doesn't need surgery, but he's out with Tommy John. Seth freaking Rollins is hurt, and now Drew McIntyre is going to take some time off, and CM Punk is still on the injured list, so he's close to coming back. But that's a lot of players, Trendsetter, that are not available for the Raw brand.
Yeah, a lot of players, but like I said before, an opportunity there for somebody else. Who else wants to, I wouldn't say necessarily take someone's spot. I mean, that's always the possibility when somebody goes out that they're off TV for a while. But here's the thing: if those individuals that you just mentioned were on television right now, would there be an opportunity for Liv Morgans? Would there be an opportunity for maybe a Braun Breaker? Would there be an opportunity for anybody up the NXT roster that somehow finds a way to make it to the main roster? There's an opportunity there. There's ways now of having individuals who weren't given that TV time, who were given that ample opportunity to be looked at as a main event or a possible future main event superstar. Here's your opportunity now. So if you're Triple H in this regime right now, I just feel like, granted, yes, you don't want these injuries to happen, but you're looking at it as if here's a chance now where, okay, let's see what we have here and let's make the best of it. And I think they've been doing that. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a worse situation than when CM Punk went down prior to WrestleMania. And yet, The Rock coming back, and then The Rock scenario not working, them wanting Cody. I mean, that's a lot of scrambling on a very short period of time, especially one of your biggest events of the year. They were able to do it. They were able to make it make sense. And I'm pretty sure they'll do the same thing starting here for looking forward to Backlash and looking forward to the draft at the end result of night 2.
Obviously, Backlash is this week, so we're going to talk about that on our next episode as we preview it. But obviously, now here's a chance for a guy like Damian Priest to really be put in the spotlight, because now he is going to be front and center, and he's going to take on Jey Uso. So we'll talk about that match when we preview Backlash in the coming during the coming week over here. So we'll talk about that, and the draft again, night 2. Let's talk about the draft in general and just a quick synopsis, because we had our instant reaction for draft night 1 for SmackDown. And you can find that on our Instagram at High Spot Podcast. Make sure you take a look at that, because we go deep into night 1. But the synopsis is, to me, they went very conservative. They really went with, like, let's hold the mainstays here. Kiana James gets drafted over to Raw, and then we got Braun Breaker going to Raw. But obviously, pretty much everything still is the same. Baron Corbin gets drafted. More wrestlers got drafted once the show went off air. Would have been nice to know when we went off on IG Live, but hey, that's neither here nor there. But obviously, you can tell there's going to be more movement on Raw and SmackDown, where more potential, like guys like Ilya Dragunov could be drafted as well. So that'll be interesting too. And guys like Gunther now, obviously, going to be thrust more into the forefront with all these injuries. But in the synopsis, Trendsetter, I almost called you Triple H. What did you make of night 1, and what do you think of this draft so far? Probably more shakeups coming up in night 2, but you would say it's pretty much been a conservative draft in night 1.
It's kind of like what I expected. Didn't really expect a lot of big moves. You even say to yourself, I think the show prior to us doing this when we're previewing the draft too, it's, the rosters aren't broke, so why are you trying to fix something? I would expect a lot more call-ups maybe from NXT, because it really feels like NXT right now with some of the individuals there, feel like they've done all they can there. It's time for them to kind of move on and leave, as we talked about in terms of injury, give opportunities for other people to take their spots in NXT as they move up to the main roster. And right now, with the situation with the injuries that we have, what better time right now to bring up some newer stars, some faces now that the audience can be familiar with. And when it comes to what night 2 brings, I really feel that it's going to be somewhat of the same. I really think more of it's the call-ups. We might have some shakeups here and there, but we know from what it was addressed before that the champions aren't going anywhere. They're staying where they are. So no fear of the WWE champion going to Raw or the world champion going to SmackDown and things of that nature. they're all staying put. But you know, the small pieces that were moved, like Nia Jax going to SmackDown, you just said Braun Breaker going to Raw. I think those are smart moves just because similar to what we're talking about with NXT and the call ups, sometimes they've done all they can on that side of the roster. So now you move on to another side where there's some more opportunities for different stories to be told. So I can't really complain too much about it. Probably night two might be a little bit different. Maybe they'll shake things up a little, but I just think right now doing it this way makes sense. You'll have those surprises here and there, but I feel like right now it doesn't have to be this gigantic, oh my goodness, wow moment because you have in the background backlash coming up too. So maybe you want to keep things some things familiar for the audience, I feel.
You have to keep the roster. You do have to make it bolster up that roster just because of the injuries. You got to pretend like, hey, this is all hands on deck here. Because while they are moving to Netflix in January, there's going to be a gap in October where they don't have a home. So whether it's going to be in USA Network is not going to extend the deal. It ends in October, so they're gonna have to find a home. So whether it's on Peacock or for the time being, where it's going to be somewhere, if they're going to be attractive to some other suitor for a few months or so, they got to have that lineup a little bit bolstered up, though. But hopefully, you get Drew back and CM Punk gets back and Rhea gets back. But right now, it's a long term situation where you're looking at months, not days, for these guys to come back. Another thing too with the draft and when you get closer a little bit after Mania, there's also going to be some releases. Now, there was some releases in the last week. So we're putting a ribbon on this last week, actually, as we come on here. And you got guys like Cameron Grimes, who unfortunately was let go. You had Von Wagner, surprisingly. Remember, this guy was a future WrestleMania main eventer in some of executives' eyes. And then you had Xia Li, Jinder Mahal, Veer, Senga. They were released to Zion Quinn. Zion Quinn to me had a look, or had an it factor, and they couldn't find anything. And to me, the only thing I'm going to say here is, listen, these guys are going to do an amazing job outside of WWE. And some of these guys, the door will not be closed. It's your way to go out there and make a name for yourself, something that WWE could not do. But it's, and some of these people are like, sometimes NXT call-ups, they don't know what to do with you. They don't know. You get called up like a guy like Cameron Grimes, and you think you're set for life. Supposedly you're not going to get fired, and then just you get caught up in the mix. I would say the WrestleMania mix here, because there's a lot of people that got kind of pushed to the side for these storylines to play out. But just with the releases here, anyone surprise you that was released?
Probably two, the Jinder scenario, Jinder Mahal being released, and Cameron Grimes. It's not that I was surprised that Cameron Grimes, like in terms of there was so much I was looking forward to with him because he had been off TV for a while and he really seemed to be it's like in purgatory. So you don't have an idea whether or not he was going to be brought up and repackaged again. But in the scenario of that, in terms of what he said, that he was fine, he was safe, and then all of a sudden that happens, it just again reinforces the fact, Jeff, that this is a business, and for all these individuals, they're independent contractors to the T. That's what it is. You're an independent contractor. I don't feel any job's ever safe. And when you feel comfortable, that's when you should worry. I'm not saying that's what happened with Cameron Grimes, but when you saw him post on social media, I doubt anyone didn't feel for him right now, and you felt bad because it's never a fun time when that happens, especially when you're going to a scenario where a place feels like home. You feel like the grass is greener, things are going to turn around, or there's the possibility of that, and then all of a sudden, it's swept under the rug in terms of that manner. Jinder coming over, and then him working as a valet, then that promo he had with The Rock, and then the title match you had with Seth Rollins for the world title. You're thinking maybe
Well,
something was going to happen with him. Nothing did. Maybe it was going to revamp after WrestleMania because again, everything was close to WrestleMania, so stories were already in place going in that direction. Didn't happen, but again, it just showcases the fact to everyone watching, the whole internet wrestling community, Jeff, that these are real people, these are real individuals. They play large than life characters on television, but they're real human beings. But and I hate to think that this is something I'm continually repeating over and over again in terms of like when we talked about injuries, here's an opportunity. But when there's such a thing as a release too, it might not be the best scenario, but and then in the landscape of pro wrestling that we have right now, Jeff, there are other opportunities out there to make a name for yourself. And like you said, the door is not always closed. The door is always open. Just it wasn't the right time at the right place. So you can go to a TNA, an MLW, you can go to AEW, go to New Japan. The indie scene, I think, is stronger than it's ever been before in terms of just notoriety and places where you can go hone your craft, reinvent yourself, engage with the audience again, figure things out, and who knows, maybe there might be the possibility of coming back. So if this was during the whole Monday Night Wars thing and there's no other place to go, you probably feel even worse. But in the scenario here, there is opportunity out there for these individuals to earn a living and to put food on the table. So unfortunate to see that, but at the same time, there's opportunities there still. So the door is always open.
I don't think Ginger is any kind of valet, but I think he'd be a manager in his role there. So let's clear that up. I don't think Ginger was a valet. Here's a question to you though that I was
That's
thinking.
how he identified himself.
Did he really?
I'm joking. No, I'm just saying.
Hey, I'm like, did I have egg on my face? So here's my question to you. Now, listen, I've never been fired like that before, and I'm pretty sure it sucks.
It's fun. No, it's not fun.
Like a man. So here's my question to you. Now, I've been broken up, and I've had those kind of experiences. Do you think Cameron should have waited a little bit and maybe gotten himself a little bit composed, or you can't blame him for going as soon as getting off the phone with WWE, posting that on Instagram? Because I get it. I get it's an emotional thing, but then when you look back on it, though, do you want people to feel sorry for you, or you do want people to sympathize with you, or would you rather just be more composed and then just wait and just put it out there? Again, it's not, there's no wrong or right answer here, but I'm just asking your opinion. Do you think Cameron Grimes should have waited at least a little bit, let it sink in, deal with it, maybe wait a day before the sting wasn't right there for him to go on social media and discuss his release?
Listen, I can't get into the head of Cameron Grimes. If it were me, I wouldn't do it. But understanding how passionate he is and how much he wants to showcase this authentic side of him, I'm guessing that was the reason why he did it. But we've also had other individuals before too. They'd go on social media and they would just say, listen, they've left or they're retired or they're moving on. Some don't get the reaction like the one that happened with Cameron Grimes, because I think that literally he posted that immediately afterwards when he
Exactly.
was released. But again, emotions are running high. You're not going off of logic. You're not going off of trying to think calmly or rationalize about anything. I think we've all been victim of that sometimes when
No,
emotions.
I would have. I
We
know
all
I
wanna make the best decisions, I understand that, but in terms of Cameron, I don't think this is a detriment to him. It showcases his passion, his love for WWE or his love for pro wrestling in that sense. But, if it were me, I would have waited. I would have been like, "You know what? Let's wait for things to settle down. Let's wait for my emotions to be settled." I know when a scenario happened where I was let go twice and the rug was swept underneath my feet, I felt I handled it maturely. I didn't get too excited, but it was definitely a punch in the gut. Like the wind was knocked out of you. And so many times I probably wanted to, retort in terms of being emotional and saying things that I probably wanted to say. But at the end of the day, I felt like I did the right thing. In terms of Cameron's situation or anybody who does that, listen, Jeff, we live in that day and age now where it's just like immediately something happens, you pick up your cell phone and you post out a video for likes. You try to make a negative into a positive and say, hey, listen, I might have been let go, but this is a scenario similar to Mandy. To Mandy Rose when she got let go abruptly for whatever reason WWE wants to post at that time, she goes out on social media and kind of talks about it, and she uses it as fuel to promote herself even more. So can't fault people on that.
definitely can't. So I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to gauge it. I know I would have done what Cameron Grimes has done, and I know you can vouch for that. I know you'd say, Jeff, that's something you would do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Put
obviously,
the phone away, Jeff. We don't need this right now.
no, we don't need it, and I do, and then I hit send, and we're screwed. All right, so listen, we got to get into this too because this was another hot topic, and I know it's a little bit old, but we got to react to it and share our thoughts on this. And that's the whole Tony Khan thing, the whole situation. And it's like a timeline here because everything interjects with everything. We had the draft that came up, so we're going to talk about AEW right now. Had the draft come up and listening to everything and how everything intertwines with this draft. Tony Khan was being videotaped, video recorded for the whole draft leading into it. And obviously, you're being recorded by the NFL Films. What a great way to promote your AEW by doing all this together with this angle that we saw in AEW Dynamite. So now we get Collision and we get Rampage. And I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't catch it. I don't think a lot of people did. I don't think the rating was good. We're going to get into Dynamite, though, and then we're going to work our way backwards to Dynasty because we got to react to Ospreay and we got and Danielson and then a few of the matches there, too. Congratulations to Swerve, by the way. We'll get to that as well. So he's sporting the neck brace, and everyone on the internet is going crazy because, oh yes, he's keeping it kayfabe. He's going online. Oh, the respect, Tony. I love it. Oh man, look at you. You had to do it. Oh, I'm so overjoyed. I don't know what it was. I don't know why, but obviously he's keeping it kayfabe. Congratulations. But then he's on video and he's dancing on Rampage with Daniel Garcia. Oh, okay. Well, obviously then I don't hear anybody ripping it, but I wouldn't. If I'm the Bucks or Jack Perry, I'd be kind of like, listen, man, we just did this one huge angle here, and we're trying to legitimize your head and neck injuries that you've updated us and told us that you're suffering. And you don't seem like a guy that's suffering from those when you're tearing it up and dancing it with Daniel Garcia. So I don't know how you felt about that, but you get the angle on Dynamite. You get Jack Perry, who is just, I mean, he's obviously doing a good job because he annoys the shit out of me every time I see him. He comes out, probably about maybe just a little bit taller than Tony Khan, and they finally convince him, hey, listen, let's change the world. All I wanted was the best for AEW. Reinstate me, and let's change the world. And then Tony, of course, with that weird, even when Bischoff and McMahon shook hands, they had that weird kind of like, they just can't do it like this. They can't get the Hogan Savage thing, kind of like it was awkward, kind of leaning by Tony and everything like that. And then the stomach and then the microphone to the gut, the delayed reaction. And then we got Jack Perry getting that in. And of course, the Young Bucks, they're the one that had to, and excuse me, because I've been corrected on this on social media. It's not the Meltzer driver, it's the TK driver, which Tony Khan corrected everyone on, saying that it changed from the Meltzer driver to the TK driver. So just informing you, trendsetter, that don't want to get beat up on social media about that. But anyways, so they deliver.
Yeah, I'm always worried about that. Yeah,
they deliver the Meltzer driver, and which honestly should have been Jack Perry. And then you get this angle where, let's not be honest, to me it felt flat. Trendsetter, where was the ambulance? Where were the top baby faces there caring for Tony Khan towards the end? And then Shad Khan, who he should be teaching some of his wrestlers how to do facial reactions, but he actually had the best acting job out of everybody. And then you've got people like Chris Statlander out there who are laughing it off when they focus on their faces. And to be even more concerning, trendsetter, is the crowd. Billy's place wasn't even sold out. So out of everything that I just threw at you, of everything that I just threw your way, what is the most concerning to you? Or are you not concerned? And are you like the internet that totally loves this freaking angle and are kissing Tony's ass saying, oh my God, now I understand why you're releasing CM Punk on videotape? Because to me, that made no sense either. It still doesn't make any sense to me. And by God, trendsetter, save me here. Throw me a bone. What did you think about this segment?
I love to see you ask me one question at a time instead of asking me 13 questions at the same time, Jeff. Okay, like you talk about me being long-winded. God damn it, Jeff. But no, in terms of Tony Khan's scenario and situation, listen, to me, I wouldn't say it's insulting, but to me, it just constantly makes me shake my head and be like, well, this is what we expect, right? Because you're trying to sell something, you're trying to make something legitimate, you're trying to have a moment similar to Stone Cold Steve Austin stunning Vince McMahon, or Kevin Nash, power bombing Eric Bischoff to the table at Bash at the Beach, right? Or was it Bash at the Beach? I don't know which one.
Oh, you're right.
Was it Bash at the Beach?
Great American Bash. Great American Bash.
Oh, Great American Bash. Sorry, Bash at the Beach was the NWO and the Hogan tourney and stuff like that. But regardless of that, it was those moments where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe what I just saw, right? In this scenario here, whether it was a half-filled or a quarter-filled Daly's Place, to me, when I saw that, I went back to watch it again because I didn't want to go off of just my instinct or what social media was showing me. It's the same scenario. There wasn't much of a reaction to it. You got a little gasp and an ooh here. Very awkward, bump by Tony. Again, I'm not trying to criticize him. He's not a professional. Neither was Vince when he took the stunner. It was a pretty bad stunner the last time he took it, and Bischoff's powerbomb wasn't that good either. It didn't look nice. But it had that moment. But the crowd didn't really seem to react to it. But then when you have Tony Khan going on NFL and basically in a neck brace, and at one point he's smiling, he's laughing, he's trying to joke. The whole thing with Daniel Garcia, I saw that later on today, and I just kind of shaking my head. Where like, you're trying to sell this, aren't you? You're trying to make this pro wrestling where it feels real and supposed to have some legitimacy there. I remember when Cody's hand got crushed by Brock Lesnar. He was wearing probably a fake cast, but selling the fact that his hand was shattered. And you're there doing a dance and you're there joking and laughing when, I'm sorry, if I was Tony Khan and that happened to me and my former employees or my VPs did that to me, I'd be pretty upset. I'd be pretty angry. I wouldn't be laughing and joking this whole damn time. But Tony's decided to take that decision. I wish I could share that emotion with you, Jeff. I really do, because internally I feel that way. But for me, it's like, why am I going to exert my energy and waste my energy on something that's, clearly to AEW is not that goddamn important? Like the chuckle over things like this too, right? So here's the scenario: you've gone all out of your way to build up a storyline, to bring out a CM Punk tape, which would continue the storyline of what you're dealing with now with the EVPs and the Young Bucks. None of this makes absolutely any sense to me. Can I make it make sense? Yeah, of course I can. I could try to get into the mind of Tony and creative in AEW and say, all right, okay, I can kind of see why they're doing this. But from a general perspective, if you're a general audience member watching this, you have no idea what any of this connection is. And then the mere fact that you have people going out there and promoting AEW and trying to promote this angle in a comedic way, in my opinion, or I wouldn't say comedic way because there's no haha, there are no jokes being put out there. But what makes me or irks me the most right now is, Jeff, you have an opportunity here, right? If you're Tony Khan, to kind of be the Vince McMahon or to be the Eric Bischoff and be now involved in what you love so much, pro wrestling, because we all know what a big fan Tony Khan is of pro wrestling, right? He wants to be anybody. Even a Dixie Carter got herself involved in TNA, being part of the show, being a on-screen character. But you do all this, and what do you do more than anything? Instead of talking majority about this whole scenario with the Young Bucks and Jack Perry, you're continually going on anytime there's a camera in front of you, talking about WWE and trying to bash WWE.
Yeah.
Guys, focus on yourself. Stop talking about the competition. You can acknowledge them if a question's asked about it, but why are you going out of your way to try to do it deliberately when it just looks bad on you? When you look like the small little kid in the group fight that's just picking on the big, big, big bad bully, supposedly, and there's no sympathy coming from your way. I see no sympathy coming Tony's way in the scenario where I'm seeing a lot of people going, oh, like this. It just doesn't surprise me. I just shake my head that they don't see it. And if
And
your leader Tony Khan's doing this, then the rest of the locker room is going to continually do it as well.
you know what? I don't get the video whole thing because I see people getting on their major platforms and kissing Tony's ass and saying I'm sorry for doubting you, Tony. And again, I love Tony Khan. I met him that one time. I
Yeah,
think great dude. Again, I'm gonna say this on every freaking show. The guy is a great freaking dude. The way he accommodates people, the stuff that he does, he's a great man, great dude. But I'm not when it comes to criticize, it's time to criticize. If you fear for your life and you fired somebody off of that thing where CM Punk, all he probably did in his direction, maybe he did a crazy face on Tony and maybe threatened him, but he didn't come close to touching Tony Khan. And that's where Tony Khan feared for his life. And basically, what led to that was the firing of CM Punk, right? Right? Because he touched it. So he's gonna go, and that's probably the scariest moment of his life. But after getting TK driven by the Bucks, physically touching him and causing him head and neck injuries, he's not gonna fire anybody. He's gonna be shown dancing with Daniel Garcia. I'd be pretty darn mad, wouldn't I? I'd probably fire somebody on the spot. That's where I don't get it. Why that videotape makes sense. It doesn't. You're lying to yourselves. And then the rating comes out.
lying to the audience too.
$683,000, 683,000 total viewers is what you get. And I want to hear the NBA lead in. I don't want to hear, oh, this and that. Oh, it's playoff season, NBA playoffs. It's a bad time. It doesn't work for me. You're coming off a big pay-per-view where you had your first African-American champion, world champion in Swerve Strickland, and he gets a second segment. And I'm like, what are we doing here? And that's what I'm getting on Swerve, because if you're not going to pay any attention to Swerve, why am I going to talk about Swerve here besides the fact that he got screwed? He had to me, we thought he was the perfect guy to beat Samoa Joe. We were leaning towards Dynasty and talking about it. And eventually me and you decided, hey, that's the way to go. He won it. Congratulations. And they played it up at the post conference. Believe it or not, they actually acknowledged it. They did talk about WWE, but they actually acknowledged Swerve. And then Jericho comes off his little speech at the post dinner, and then you get nothing, no video package, no anything. No acknowledgement of Swerve or giving him the praise for being the first African-American champion in AEW. So I don't get it. So if they're not going to talk about it, I'm not going to talk about it. But congratulations, Swerve, because we're proud of you.
Yeah, we definitely are proud of you. It would be nice to have acknowledged it on the show, but Again,
And then lastly is the Harvey Weinstein comment. And again, here's another chance. You have a platform trendsetter. You're on NFL. You know NFL is licensing those belts with WWE. Yeah, Jacksonville is even. I don't know if Jacksonville is included in it or not, but they are licensing those belts.
yeah.
And then come on, have a chance to promote AEW, have to promote your pay per view, promote maybe your champion, and you call WWE the Harvey Weinstein. I get it, and I know what you tried to do, but it didn't come off as that because there is a subculture in WWE that's been eradicated because Vince McMahon is, and we didn't talk about this, but no more Vince McMahon.
No.
And they are eradicating everything that was there, all that toxicity, and no more Vince McMahon. But I get what you're trying to say. You're trying to say Vince McMahon, but in doing so, though, a lot of those free agents, you basically accuse them of being in a Harvey Weinstein-like culture. So take that for what it's worth too. But you didn't talk about your company, like you said, Chandra. All he did was want to talk about WWE. He had to get that in.
He had to get that in too, but isn't also calling the kettle black too? Because as much as he wants to compare WWE to the Harvey Weinstein situation, there are also rumors circulating around AEW and the lack of protecting talent and making talent feel comfortable in a safe and work environment. And yet that still hasn't been talked about too. So when Tony goes out and says those things, again, I don't know all the details, and more details come out in terms of the allegations and Vince McMahon. We know now Vince McMahon and the WWE, they have cut ties. They are no longer together. So you can no longer link the two together. I mean, you will from a historical standpoint. But then the whole scenario of what happened with a former talent, with a current talent at AEW, and, that scenario still hasn't come out yet. So I don't understand why he's doing it. If it's for light jabbing or to joke around or try to be funny, there are a lot of things you can do. Like you said, you can promote your champion, you can promote your pay per view, you can promote your company. Why is it constantly have to? Do you think, for example, the Jacksonville Jaguars are talking about, as they're talking about them building up their team, they're talking about the other teams around them and trying to bash them at the same time? No, they're not concerned with them. They know what they have in their competition in terms of their division. They're trying to better themselves. They're focusing on them. That's what Tony Khan, that's what AEW needs to do. But when there always seems to be a scenario, whether it be a Tony Storm or it comes to any person out there has a shot, or a Brian Cage, to take a shot at WWE. Okay, congratulations. Can you tell us anything else that's new? Is that the only thing you have to present? And unfortunately, that is, and it really makes them look bad because it really makes them feel like they're obsessed with this for some reason, and they can't get over it. When WWE, although they make those slight jabs and the whole scenario, Triple H and Will Ospreay, again, take it for what you will. Will Ospreay obviously took it personal, but at the same time, dude, relax. Because if Triple H is not on your level, then he must be doing something right, supposedly. So I would just back off there and just focus on yourselves.
Here's the thing, too, Cody. All that story, little tongue in cheek that you guys are doing, you know, you're lucky you have jobs because of Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes made the landscape of pro wrestling better for you guys, and then you're shitting on his story. Really? Okay, fine. That's fine. You want to do that, but Cody Rhodes is going to take the high road. He's not going to say anything bad about you guys, and that's what you got to do. You
And
got to
never has said anything bad about AEW.
be a pro. When a lot of people aren't being pro, and the thing is too, you know what? When you're on top and you make those comments about the competition, you sound you sound you sound
Bitter?
no. You sound maybe petty and and
Envious?
people brush it off as tongue in cheek. But when you're at the bottom and you make those things, it reeks of desperation. And that's what all these things reek of desperation. You're trying to knock that thing. You're trying to throw stones and whatever. I guess you're trying to go into a gunfight with rocks, I guess, right? Or knives, right? That's what it sounds like. What's going on there too. And yeah, and that's basically it. And not to mention though, they got what they wanted. They had a good wrestling show. Uh,
And that's what surprised me the most. It's one of their best pay-per-views I can remember in a really long time, but all they wanted to focus on was take jabs at WWE instead of focusing on the great event they had. Bryan Danielson, Will Ospreay, your champion now, Swerve Strickland. Can we focus on the positives of what the company's done as opposed to focus on, that big bad, juggernaut bully WWE? Come on, guys. It's a business here. Let's treat it like a business.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I mean, totally agree with you there on that point. And the only thing else we're going to do to wrap up this whole AEW thing was just really quick talk about Danielson and Ospreay because, listen, I know a lot of people are giving it 7.5 stars or whatever, but listen, we're just going to face facts, right? If you're a wrestling fan and you like wrestling and you like that up and down roller coaster that you got from them, then that's the match for you. And it was a great match. You can't take anything away from Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay. They can't even mess up Will Ospreay, because to me, that's your baby face. That is your money train. That's any salvation that you have of trying to turn this ship around is in that guy. So don't book him wrong, because that to me is your only salvation. Unless miraculously Kenny Omega is going to walk through the door, maybe next week, but you don't know what current status he's in right now. But again, that's a guy who's beat up as well too, who really can't give you a full-time schedule, I believe, at least now in his, in his point of his career. So you got a guy like Will Ospreay, and you can't mess this one up. But just in a ribbon on the Danielson Ospreay match, I thought it was a great match. It was what the fans want of that company. It's a wrestling match. They're going to give you the oohs and ahs, and Danielson can have a match. Ospreay can have a bad match. So you got a great match, and it was the highlight of a great wrestling show, a great show for that culture, for that niche that watches AEW.
Yeah, taking nothing away from the world title match, but that was the one everyone was looking forward to. That's what basically I feel the card was built off of. Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. Sorry, I keep saying Daniel Bryan. But it was a great match. It was awesome. It's even early on as a candidate of match of the year. I'm sure in a lot of people's eyes. So go and work off of that, gain and work off that momentum. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. And now the scenario with, Brian Danielson being injured by one of the moves close to towards the end of the match, and then him having issues with his neck. You hope the best. You hope nothing's there. It was just a scenario where just he landed wrong and you move on from there too. But you're right. Will Ospreay right now is the face of AEW right now. And what you don't want to do from a creative standpoint is to mess that up right now, because he can literally book himself and it'll be great. It looks like, from if I'm trying to read how AEW is trying to do creative, in my personal opinion, it looks like they're leaning more towards down the road eventually going to be Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, and that would be an amazing match in itself. Just looking at it on paper, we're not there yet too, because a lot of stuff has to happen still before that actually comes to fruition. But yeah, you're right, man. One of the best pay per views I've seen in a long time from AEW. Matches, for the most part, were really, really good, especially this one and the main event, which was I was looking forward to as well, Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland. But man, what more can you say, dude? Focus on you guys, enjoy your wins, and cherish them, because they've been few and far between, and work off of them. But like I said, hopefully it leads into better Dynamites, because again, Dynamite, Collision, Rampage didn't really seem to have garnered that after Dynasty. So again, there's room for improvement here. But again, focus on the main thing. Your champion, guys, Swerve Strickland. Let's focus on him and move forward from there.
And again, we also want to wish a speedy recovery to MJF, who had to go under the knife. Obviously, the PT was not working well, and the news was broken by Solid Monster. Sounds off. He actually broke the story over the weekend, so we want to wish MJF a speedy recovery. Not the kind of news you want to get for AEW as a fan of MJF, who obviously they would love to come back, sooner than later, but we'll see what happens. But obviously, it seems like a shoulder injury, although that wasn't disclosed, but that seemed to be the issues he was having. So we assume that that's what he went in for. So a speedy recovery for MJF. I believe they really need him back in the fold, get that true heel in there, and have just another guy there, because he's ratings. So talked about AEW trendsetter, and now really quick, just to tie Raw and SmackDown together, we have a new women's champion in Becky Lynch. She was the right choice to do it. Like we were talking about before you came in, Liv Morgan's going to have her time. Rhea Ripley's going to be sidelined for a while. And was there any other choice than Becky Lynch here? I thought it was the right move.
I thought it was the right move too, despite my heart wanting to be with Liv Morgan and see that scenario of her being a heel champion and there being history right there where I could have seen a long title reign, because the first title reign with Liv Morgan as a babyface didn't work. Yes, there was sympathy, there was excitement when it happened. Could have been also that was under a different regime too. That's why it didn't work, right? But to see Liv as the women's champion, as the world champion, right, and her possibly now becoming the new mommy for Dom, that could now lead in the future, because now Dom's is attending an injury right now. That would have been great to build up towards whenever Rhea comes back. And if we're gonna look into the future here, SummerSlam, her and having Liv have a lengthy title reign for Rhea to get back and now come back as a face, That would be awesome to see, right? But for Becky, from a business standpoint, you're in a scenario where, like you said, the injuries have just been piling up on both brands, on both AEW and WWE. So what do? You look towards your veteran leadership. You look to the people that always deliver, the ones who have people who are, as they say, over with the audience, and Becky is right now. And although she's going to take time off, that was cut short, and now she's going to be one of the staples there that needs to help this division on the Raw brand. So I can understand, and I'm not against it, but I'm sure a lot of people are like, Becky again? Are we really going to do this? But guys, from a business standpoint, it makes absolutely, to me, 100% sense.
Yeah, it does. And again, I don't understand why the people are just like, shitting on it, because I don't think they should. She's a great champion. She's been there. She's elevated stars, and I don't want to hear otherwise, because she has. And I know a lot of people say that she does the Hogan thing, says it doesn't work for me, brother. But she came back from vacation. She wasn't supposed to come back. She was supposed to take some time off. Not with her kid. Seth's recuperating from injuries, and she came back to do right by WWE. So you got to have a little bit of honor and respect for that, what Becky Lynch is doing. Then we saw Imperium turn on Giovanni Vinci, and now we're kind of hoping that maybe Ilya Dragunov gets elevated to the main roster. Maybe he joins Imperium, or maybe he is the next guy in line for Gunther. We saw that trendsetter. And then we go over to SmackDown, and we're getting that bloodline forming. We're getting Tama Tonga, and we're getting Solo Sikoa. We're seeing that development of Solo, which we knew he had it in him. And now you had them take out Owens all bloodied, and now we're getting RKO and Kevin Owens against Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa at WWE Backlash. How great is that, man? That's a great match. And then we've seen the elevation of Tiffany Stratton, who in such a short time now is in the ring with likes of Bayley, Naomi, and getting involved. And now she's going to be involved in a triple threat matchup at Backlash against Bayley and Naomi. I mean, so just SmackDown is progressing well. Yes, do we miss a tribal chief? Of course. Who doesn't? Right? But we're getting good shows here on both Raw and SmackDown. What are your thoughts on both shows?
Well, I've always loved SmackDown. I think SmackDown's doing an amazing job, even with the absence of the Tribal Chief. I feel with Cody's scenario, and then what you're looking forward to, which we'll talk again later on about that main event there with Cody and AJ Styles and the great possibilities of how amazing that would be. I think they're going to be all right. And like you said, somebody like Tiffany Stratton is someone who, to me, is someone who is a star already. She walks like a star, she acts like it, and now she's being presented as it, because there's certain individuals when they come up either from the main roster or they're signed or they move over, you have to work extremely hard to give that perception of them that the audience believes that they're worth in terms of being in this situation, this position of their career. With Tiffany Stratton, you don't see that at all. This woman, ever since her rivalry with Becky Lynch on NXT, Jeff, has proven to me not only is she athletic, not only is she gorgeous, but she can go in the ring. And she has this nasty side to her in terms of she can brawl, she can fight. So by showing those elements of herself, she's only just legitimized herself as well. Which again, that's the Becky Lynch rub, right? She helped legitimize Tiffany Stratton to the point where now people believe she's this ass kicker as well, other than just a pretty face. So for me, it's amazing to see Tiffany Stratton in this situation. I think a lot of people were upset she wasn't part of WrestleMania. Can I understand why she was called up way late? I would prefer to be called up, around this time now. But again, timing is what it is. I think right now, in terms of her leading into the summer and then going into the fall, it's an expression that gets used a lot. I hate using it myself too because I feel it's so cheesy and corny. But to me, sky's the limit for her, man. She is literally firing on all cylinders. That's another stupid expression I hate using as well. But my goodness, she has that it factor that you and I can never really describe, and nobody can really describe. But she carries that around, and she has that it factor, and
Yeah.
she's showcasing it now. So I don't see her slowing down anytime soon.
She looks like a vet. Like, she's comfortable in there. Like, she's been doing it for years. That's what I get the most out of, and that's why she has that factor, because it seems like she's been doing it for longer than she has. And then as we close trendsetter, gotta talk about Cody Rhodes in that pink suit. No, I'm joking. I mean, but that was pretty badass. I mean, and then the lines for Cody Rhodes and his meet and greets are just phenomenal. But really quick, wrapping up with the whole Carmelo Hayes, he gets taken by SmackDown, and he has this matchup with Cody Rhodes. I think it was the right move to put Carmelo in there. If he's going to be your dude, if he's going to be one of your top guys, get him in there with Cody Rhodes. Give us a great dream match already to start off the bat. And I mean, yes, did they have a weird spot? Yes. Did we fear Cody got injured on one of those moves? Yes. And right now they can't afford any injuries, especially to the world champion. But all in all,
Yeah.
to the current, but let's be between him and Damon, he is the face of the company now. Back to the matchup though, I think it did good for Cody. Had a good matchup with a younger talent. I think elevated Carmelo, and I think good for Melo. I think he did a good job, and I think that's a great way to bring in a major player from NXT.
Definitely. I mean, if you're going to bring somebody in and give them the perception of importance to go after the world champion and have a great match, besides that weird spot that happened at the end where I was fearing for my life that Cody had hurt his shoulders. And who knows? Maybe he did, and maybe it's not that severe, or they're just hiding it right now. Because, again, that's the worst thing that can happen to the face of your company right now, for him to go out with a shoulder injury. That would be beyond terrible. And that's a pretty bad spot that they did.
On the side,
Regardless of that,
which was on the side of the pec, that was hurt. I
yeah,
believe.
on that side, exactly, too. But for that match to take place, I know a lot of people are like, Cody gave a lot and it really seemed like he was really battling a lot for Carmelo. But again, it doesn't hurt Cody to give a lot of that real estate to somebody like a Carmelo who's coming in, wants to make a name for himself, wants to showcase his talent. What better way to do that with the WWE champion, right? And I was perfectly fine with it. I felt that, it might have been maybe also another favor too, where Cody coming back from injury worked a lot with Carmelo to get ready and get prepared after he had torn his pec to come back. So I'm good with it. I would have thought maybe there was gonna be more for Carmelo, at least one or two more title shots for NXT, but that doesn't seem to have worked. And hey, now he's in this new scenario where another cool thing too is that he's not familiar with the audience too. They do know him, they do recognize him because he did have a couple matches on the roster, especially on Raw. So good for him, and looking forward to see what happens. I was pretty happy with the match besides that final spot.
Well, obviously now, of course, they're moving on to Trick Williams, who beat Ilya Dragunov for the championship, for the NXT championship. So whoop that trick. So congratulations to Trick Williams there. But yeah, so everything now leads to Monday night with the draft night 2. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, you're going to see some more shakeups, maybe NXT call-ups as well. And we'll talk about it and also preview WWE Backlash coming up on Saturday in the afternoon from France. So we got so much to discuss, Trendsetter. And man, what
I'm looking forward to talking about it too.
Week of pro wrestling we had, and we're wrapping it up here with you guys, putting a ribbon on the week. That was so much went down, and there's still so much more to happen. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be news left and right again in this week as well, and we just don't know about it. But Trendsetter, awesome show. We are the High Spot Podcast, HSP, presented by Give Us a Shot Network. Like and subscribe, guys. Download, hit that notification bell. When new episodes drop, you'll be the first ones to know. And of course, HSP is also available on all podcast platforms. Make sure you download and subscribe. Apple Podcast, iHeart Radio, Spotify. We are there. You can listen to us. If you can't see us, listen to us as well. And follow us on all our social media at High Spot Podcast. And now I'm bringing in the closer, Trendsetter. Do what you do best.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the High Spot Podcast. We greatly appreciate it. For the Scoundrel, Jeff Martin, I'm the Trendsetter, Brian Berger. We are the Jersey Wrecking Crew. Thank you so much. Remember, guys, we do this for one reason and one reason only. We do this for you, the crew.
Whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. All right, bye, everybody.